So Barcelona have finally gotten a big win this season. After losses to PSG, Real Madrid, and Chelsea, I felt like there was a ton of pressure on Hansi Flick and company. He said as much, you saw as much with your eyes. There was a ton of pressure on Barcelona, not to mention the fact that Atletico Madrid came into this match on a 7-game unbeaten streak, and so any result against Atleti should not be taken for granted. I'm celebrating this one today. Welcome to episode 756 of the Barcelona podcast, brought to you by the Blue Wire Podcast Network. I am Dan Hilton, and a big thank you, as always, to everybody that joined me on Big Up for the Watch Along for today's match. As a programming note, I will have a watch along on Saturday, but it will be taking place a few hours after the match. 7 p.m. East Coast time is that one. Barcelona against Real Betis. I will still not have seen the game by then, so it will be a surprise to me. I'll be watching it for me in live time. But again, whether you saw it before or you're going to wait to watch it with me, that watch along again is 7 p.m. East Coast time, not at 12:30 p.m. East Coast time when the match takes place. I still hope you find the time to join me for that. Also, please subscribe to the YouTube channel or help me out here this holiday season by becoming a patron to get these shows without the ads, or help me out on the merch store. We've got a bunch of new fun stuff in the new merch store. Or, of course, help me out on the podcast apps by leaving a nice review. And now with all that out of the way, let's dive in here. The 5 headlines from Barcelona's 3-1 victory over Atletico Madrid. Headline 1 is Atleti draws first blood. I didn't have many notes in the first 10 minutes of this match because things were so chaotic. It was end-to-end. There was a ton of 50-50 tackles, and I didn't feel like either team ever truly had their foot on the gas against the other. They both had their foot not on the brake, I know that, but neither really had their foot on the gas. It was a good sign, and I'll say this because things did not end the match this way, but Lamine Yamal started this game doing well, coming back to help defend, which was a good thing. And with all that physicality, Atleti did lose Johnny Cardoso right around the 15th minute. He had to be replaced by Koke, and that was frustrating to see from him. I totally understand where he started as a ball winner, and I don't think that helped Atleti get any foothold in the game. While Koke, with the ball, is a superior player, it just meant that I felt like Atletico Madrid got a bit weaker in the middle of the field for the rest of that first half. That said, the opener for Atletico Madrid does kind of come out of nowhere. As I said, neither team really had the run of play, and it comes in a sense kind of away from the run of play. Barcelona give the ball away in Atleti's third of the field, and one long ball later, and you've got Baena in a 1v1 situation. He's initially called offside, but if you actually look at it, it's Eric's man. He doesn't track him, and so Baena is available to get in between Cubarsí and Koundé. He is just onside. Cubarsí was the one who kept him onside. VAR looks at it, though, having first said it was offside, but that was enough to overturn it, and when you saw the VAR replay, this is clear as day, the goal for Atletico Madrid, and they go up 1-0, which means that even though they lost this match, they're continuing their La Liga record, having scored the first goal in all of their first 15 league matches so far this season. And at that point, Culers were disappointed, but they should have been a little more afraid than you think. Atleti, at that point, had only trailed in Liga this season for 18 minutes out of a possible 1260 so far. 6 minutes against Espanyol, where they lost that one 2-1, and then 12 minutes against Real Madrid, they won that one 5-2. So Atleti this season defending a lead have basically been perfect. I did explain how that goal happens, but I do want to hit the tactics board before we go on to break down this first goal, because it was really indicative of the changes and tweaks that Hansi Flick has made with the high line and with the offside trap over the course of this last month. And so just saying high line or offside trap and that's the problem, that's what you need to change. No, there's nuance to this. So let's hit the tactics board to continue to talk about that nuance. For so much of the talk of the high line and the offside trap for Barcelona being the problem, the first goal is indicative of not only the change that Hansi Flick has made since that second half of Celta de Vigo, because this offside trap and high line look identical to what Hansi Flick had changed and adjusted to in the second half of Celta de Vigo, and the tweak that has been made. So I know people are very dogmatically saying high line is a problem, the offside trap is the problem, but the problem here with this offside trap and the high line is when Eric Garcia, who in this game has done a pretty good job of tracking that runner through. So whether it is Nico Gonzalez coming through the middle, or if Nico and Baena are switching, it is Baena through the middle. And the goal is scored for Atletico Madrid because the ball is given up in a high spot of the field, and then it's pinned forward from deep into a spot that, because Barcelona are in transition and Eric Garcia is a bit too far up the field, it's a run in behind from Baena in between Cubarsí and Koundé. And usually in this game. And again, I think he's done a good job of doing it. He's doing what Frankie de Jong did against Celta de Vigo, and Frankie de Jong has done in the game since Celta. That Eric is just a bit behind Baena. Eric is supposed to be in the goal side position, again, or to track Baena on that run. But again, because of the switch here, Baena coming in from the wing, and then Nico was the one who was going out wider. That little switch there of fluidity between Baena and Nico Gonzalez, and then Garcia not being goal side of Baena, then Baena is free for that run in between Kubarsi and Koundé. And that's really been the one and only way that Atletico Madrid in that first half got any space at all. It's that fluidity between Nico and Baena, and if Eric Garcia wasn't in the proper position. As far as that, the offside trap and the high line are doing just fine. Headline 2 is showing character. After a goal was scored against you, you could wilt, or you could do what Barcelona did. They found an additional bit of energy. Where was that before the goal? Well, either way, they find some energy, and they're putting Atletico Madrid under a lot of pressure. And all that pressure, the dam does break ever so slightly, thanks to an old friend in Clement Lenglet. If you're a Barca fan, you should be a little less frustrated at the goal that was scored against you than the one that was given up by Los Colchoneros. That means the mattress makers. That's their nickname. Because there are two primary cardinal sins that you cannot do when defending that Atleti commit here that leads to this goal. Lenglet does not track Raphinha, who stayed on the right after the corner with Lamine Yamal on the left. So maybe Clement Lenglet was saying, that's not my guy. Where's Lamine Yamal? Couldn't find him in time. No one put any pressure on Pedri either, and that's probably even the bigger sin than what Lenglet did. So Raphinha, he's wide open for the pass from Pedri. He then dribbles Oblak and passed it in. It's 1-1. A few minutes later, Atletico Madrid had a really good chance to go up 2-1, but if not for Joan Garcia, who in big matches needs to come up big for Barcelona, and he did it again today. Joan Garcia coming way, way, way off his line after a mistake with a back pass to him, but he comes all the way out, gets the tackle, doesn't use his hands against Baena, and this is real good from Joan Garcia. Headline 3 is worst PK of his career. That's a question, but I could probably say it's a definitive statement. At least you can show me the tape. 35th minute, Barrios fouls Olmo as he enters the box. The contact starts outside the box, but the foul occurs inside the box. So yes, it is a pen. I like the call. Lewandowski steps up to take it. It is awful from Lewandowski. Too much power. Skies this one over. I think this one landed somewhere in Madrid, but was he facing the north end? Then it probably landed somewhere in France. If he was facing the south, then of course that was somewhere in the Granada region. Either way, Lewandowski, this one was gross. And for Lewandowski, I've praised him in his limited time this season. He's scoring goals, playing less minutes, and I thought he's had a really good season. Kind of up to this game, this was his first stinker of the season, and it does pair pretty nicely with the fact that he played 3 days ago. So maybe this is the warning bells to remind you that Lewandowski can't be picking up those starts multiple times in the same week. Maybe that's why Hansi Flick was rotating so much early to start this season as he was coming off that summer. And for Lewandowski, yeah, I know this is just one little mistake, but I thought he was the only player for Barcelona today that wasn't really as sharp as he could have been. Everybody else had their moments, but for Lewandowski, yeah, this was his big stinker of the season so far. Lewandowski does almost get some redemption a few moments later because immediately he goes back to Atleti. Lamine Yamal at the near post finds Lewandowski's header. But hey, if I'm going to give Joan Garcia a compliment, I have to give one to Oblak. This is a tremendous glove save from Jan Oblak. Come the end of the first half, I thought a goal was probably going to be scored. Both teams were showing signs of fatigue, which does mean there are holes. Now, the hole for Barcelona came down their right side when Alejandro Balde got forward and Barcelona lost the ball too high. That meant it was a 1v1 with Gerard Martin having to fend out wide. He goes in, and fortunately for Gerard Martin and all of Culers, he got, 2 centimeters of just the end of his toe on the ball. I don't know what it was, but he barely got a piece of that ball because if not, this, even in live time, felt like an orange. And obviously, if he doesn't get any of the ball, that is a clear-cut red, and he just gets the thickest yellow I've seen in quite some time. Barca are a bit fortunate, I think, for him just getting a yellow, but by the letter of the law, that's what it was. He got the ball first and went through the man. So yeah, as much as this is an orange, it's a yellow for Gerard Martin. And a compliment to him, this was the one error that Gerard Martin made in this game. For the second straight game, I'm giving nothing but effusive praise for Gerard Martin as a left center back. He was just so terrific back there today. And for him to play that entire second half on a yellow, and knowing that unlike one little ticky-tack yellow where maybe you get another little warning here, no, he had one more chance to make a mistake, and he didn't. And in the second half, he took some chances. He went to ground, and yet he winds up surviving, going the full 90 in this match. So Gerard Martin, good on you. Headline 4, Olmo Unexpected. It was Diego Simeone instead of Hansi Flick, who I thought would take out Gerard Martin. Flick knows more than I do and more than we did in the chat. Good on him. But for Diego Simeone to blink, he brings in Conor Gallagher for Nico Gonzalez, which does change up the formation of Atletico Madrid quite a bit, actually. It changes them from a 4-1-4-1 to the 4-2-3-1 in build-up. They still continue to defend with 5 at the back. And because they were giving Barcelona most of the possession, they didn't really change that much out of possession. Just in possession, things changed a bit. And I think that did mean Atletico Madrid suffered to move that ball in the early moments of that second half, and they didn't really have much continuity when that second half began. That said, they were able to defend more narrow, and that extra midfielder did mean that they were winning more balls, or at least that's what it felt like, at a higher rate. Lamine Yamal, in the 53rd minute, comes across the penalty box, beats 4. Raphinha is wide open at the back post, but knocks it wide. This is one of those where, as good as Raphinha was, he earned his standing ovation when he came out of that game, absolutely, but I really wish he had got this on frame. And just like the PK miss from Lewandowski, if Barcelona didn't get a result, I would have looked back to this as one of those big moments that Barcelona had it, but couldn't get it. In the 62nd minute, Simeone continued to make some changes. It's Sorloth and Thiago Almada on for Baena and Simeone, that being the younger Simeone. And this did take a little bit of the bite out of the midfield, but those guys are also fatigued. It did also put more pressure on the box for Barcelona in Almada and Sorloth. And maybe that extra bit of attacking force, changing where your pressure begins, just a little bit higher for Atletico Madrid, that meant that you lost one extra body in that midfield to put some pressure on Pedri, which is why the second goal for Barcelona is scored. Pedri is again given too much time on the ball. Olmo gets a good first touch on the pass. Lewandowski gets enough of it to keep it alive. This is one good moment from Lewandowski in the game. Olmo keeps up his run. He doesn't fall down, doesn't decide to quit. He keeps up that run, then drags it to set himself up, and the finish across the body is a good one. It's one of his best goals in a Barcelona uniform. Unfortunately, and I told you a few weeks ago what the Ferran Torres experience is, this is the Dani Olmo experience for every moment of brilliance. Well, then he goes down. It looked like he might have dislocated his shoulder. It's too early to tell, but Hansi Flick did say he had a shoulder injury. He will likely now miss some time, which doesn't that sum it up for Olmo? We've been waiting for him to find his form since Fermin went down 2 weeks ago. It looked like Olmo was finally in this game finding something, and now he looks like he might be on the shelf again. Yeah, that is the Dani Olmo experience in a nutshell. He has moments of brilliance. You know he's an excellent footballer, and then he just cannot stay match fit or healthy enough to be able to get up to that level enough times in a season. After the goal, Hansi Flick makes the changes. Maybe they were preordained, but out goes Lewandowski, out goes Olmo, and in comes Ferran Torres and Rashford, who were able to add some energy when Barcelona needed it. We knew that there were going to be big moments for both teams. I think in the remaining minutes there, Atleti at that point had to go for it. And I thought Barcelona, again, this is the 69th minute, could have put this game away. I made a note of this, that Lamine Yamal winds up picking it up in space, saw too much of the goal, shot it wide. And that's one big miss from each of Barca's forwards in this game. They could have iced this game, Lewandowski, Raphinha, and Lamine Yamal, but they all had one big miss. So it's not one individual mistake from one of them. It's 3 big misses. Fortunately for Barcelona, they created enough chances. This is a testament to Hansi Flick's system. You might complain about them conceding goals, but they also create enough chances against a really good defensive side like Atletico Madrid, who are best in the Liga in goals conceded. They created enough big chances against them to win this game regardless of those misses. It also helped that Pedri was absolutely in his bag in the second half. He was the best player out there. Goes down in the 72nd minute, which is a bummer. He was only supposed to play 60 minutes, but Hansi Flick did say he was just tired, so fortunately not an injury to him. It was probably just cramping, but he comes out. Raphinha also, as I said, went out to the standing ovation to be replaced by Cossato and Dro, which, yes, on paper, between what Raphinha was giving in that game and Pedri was giving in that game, with Cossato and Dro coming on, it was all about survival at that point. And then headline 5 is hello super sub Torres. And also hello Antoine Griezmann, who came on in the later parts of that game for Atletico Madrid. He doesn't really ever do much against Barcelona, and that continued here, the Atletico Madrid legend. Thiago Almada, maybe a future Atletico Madrid legend. He has a huge miss in the 79th minute. He dribbles 2 in the box as well as Juan Garcia. He just scuffs his shot. That one goes wide, and Barcelona are fighting on with still that 2-1 lead. There were hot and cold moments, I must say, also from Dro in his appearance here. He was not tracking the runners. I didn't love his defensive game today, but he was brave when it was time to get on the ball, and he was getting fouled while Barcelona were under pressure. I actually thought he was much better in the Atleti half of the field, and looked more comfortable there than he was defending for his life, which does actually make a ton of sense for a 17-year-old to be expected to do things that take experience, that take time, and take bravery to understand where you need to be positionally. And that's all stuff that will come hopefully in time, but I did like what he gave in Atleti's half of the field. 87th minute, Lamine Yamal's day was also done coming off for Christensen. Had to happen. Lamine Yamal, I thought he gave a good shift. I think people were complaining about him today, but he had his moments. Yeah, he didn't have the end product today, but that's fine. Not every day is he going to have the end product. And then he looked very fatigued, as everybody else did late in that game. If Hansi Flick could trust Winnie Bardghji, which I guess he can't do, I think Lamine Yamal would have come out earlier in that game. It wasn't to be. So that meant that with Christensen coming on, it was all out, bunker down. Let's get those 3 points and get out of Dodge, because there were some nervy moments late in that one. Griezmann missed one, and then Rashford the other way did really well to win a corner off of a shot and take some time off that clock. Just enough time for Barcelona to put in the dagger. It's a 3-1. Super sub Ferran Torres back where he belongs, but I don't know, you might have to come back to the starting lineup because Lewandowski might not be cutting it every 3 days either. But anyway, Ferran Torres with the third goal. Dro, good on him, does not panic, goes back to the wing with it. Rashford plays through Balde, crosses on the money, and Torres takes one touch to set himself up and finishes it cleanly. It is lovely to have Super Sub Torres back. My prediction for this one was 2-1, and I was close for a while. Obviously, it ends 3-1. But the reason I said that was the reason why I think they won this match. They are back home. They're outscoring opponents now 10-1 back at home at the Camp Nou. And Diego Simeone continues to struggle at the Camp Nou. It's been 14 years since he's been a manager of Atletico Madrid, and he has yet to register a single win at the Spotify Camp Nou. It is a fortress against Diego Simeone. It is impenetrable, and I'm really happy that Barcelona is finally back. Before I leave you, I do have to give you some bad news. Unfortunately, she had surgery today, and Aitana Bonmatí will now miss 5 months, which takes her right to where the Champions League semifinal, or potentially a final for the Barca Femení. That is some really awful news for a team that we know did not have the money to reinforce their squad. So that depth, which has already been stretched, is going to be stretched even farther. Yes, Vicky Lopez has been hurt this season. Alexi Putellas is getting back to what she has been. And Barcelona Femení have had to survive with that Alexi Putellas in the past, and now they're going to have to do it for basically the remainder of this season without Aitana Bonmatí. So we hope she gets healthy quickly, and we can see her again at the end of the season when it's time to win some trophies. And while Barcelona haven't won trophies yet, this match took place today because of the Spanish Super Cup, and that's why Real Madrid face Athletic Club tomorrow. I will not have a watch along for that one, but I will have the watch along, as I mentioned at the beginning, at 7 p.m. East Coast time against Real Betis on Saturday. So I do hope I see you there, and as always, until next time, Forza Barca.